Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of Mind the Music, the main podcast on this channel where I basically just talk about loads of different things to do with my music and the production of my music and stuff like that. I hope you guys are enjoying the new microphone quality. This is a new microphone that I bought. It is a Blue Snowball Ice. It wasn't a Blue Yeti because I could not afford a Blue Yeti. So I just went with a Blue Snowball, which is actually amazing quality for the amount that it costs. I think it costs about 50 quid. Plus I spent a little bit extra on pop shield, pop filter, and also one of those arms that clips to your desk, so it looks very, very professional now. It's a very clean quality, and I would definitely, if this is the sort of thing that you're looking for on a budget, then I would definitely recommend buying this microphone. So last episode I talked about the tracks that I did which were collaborations with other artists, and I basically just talked about how I felt about them and what I thought could have been improved. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit weird, especially in terms of music. I'm going to be talking about these things called Easter eggs in my tracks, both in the artwork and in the music. So first of all, I should clarify by saying what I actually mean by an Easter egg. So if you're like me and you've spent a lot of time on the internet or playing video games or both, then you've definitely heard of an Easter egg. It's basically a subtle reference to a previous bit of work or an upcoming piece of work. For example, in my case, it could be reusing lyrics from an older track just to make reference to it, or using artwork from an older track just to make a point. And there's something I should always point out here when I'm talking about this. When it comes to reusing older lyrics, you might think that if I reuse stuff from previous work, then it makes me look a bit lazy, it makes me look a bit uncreative, and it does make a track a lot easier to finish, but I can assure you I don't do it just because I can't be bothered to add new material into a track. I actually do it for continuity reasons, which is a weird thing to say, but it's very similar to Marvel fans, how you might watch a Marvel film and they might make a reference to a previous film, and then they might pick up on that and say, oh my god, yeah, he's referencing this previous film. Like, for example, as the best example I can think of with that is Thanos. Kind of like, Thanos in Infinity War. Oh yeah, that's that character that was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was at the end of Avengers 1 and 2, and it's the same voice as well. They kept that sort of thing consistent, right? They didn't change the voice because that would seem a bit weird, right? That's kind of what I like to do with some of my tracks. It's obviously a bit different. Because it's less likely that you'll recognize that sort of thing. But basically what I do sometimes is I include lyrics from previous tracks into my newer tracks, so you might be able to look at them and say, I recognize these lyrics, these are from one of his previous tracks, or I recognize his artwork, I feel like this is referencing something that I'm not quite sure of. So yeah, that's basically what today's topic is going to be about. If you didn't pick up on any of the things that I've included in previous tracks, because there are one or two things, I'm basically going to go over them today. So here's a few things, a few references to some of my older tracks that you might not have seen before. So one of the biggest gemstones on my channel is a track called Who You'll Become. It was the first EDM track that I made with vocals, not the first EDM track that I made. That title goes to Electrophilic. Who You'll Become was released in September 2017, and it was basically where the musical journey for me started. But the reason why I bring up Who You'll Become is because there is a little bit of an Easter egg in there. And it itself becomes an Easter egg later on. So the main lyrics in Who You'll Become, starting from the first breakdown, are actually lyrics reused from a previous EDM track I did called A Path For You, which wasn't a very good track, but the vocals were pretty solid. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take those vocals, I'm going to add them to this new track of mine, and basically just give them a new melody. And that's basically all I did. And then, because Who You'll Become was an important milestone on the channel, the lyrics in them actually make a return in Rise Again, which is a track I did that was a 100 subscriber special. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, there'll always be a path for you. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, there'll always be a path for you. The lyrics used in the build sections of Who You'll Become are also used at the end of Balance with a little bit of a change.
Your head, so don't rush, take it slow, keep it low, don't overflow. I want you to know who you'll
The artwork in Who You'll Become is also pretty relevant to the channel's evolution. So for the artwork in Who You'll Become, you'll notice that there's actually an image of me wearing a pair of sunglasses, right? That was just that's what I was going for with the artwork for the image, right? There was nothing really super special about that, but I didn't want to use an image of me. The reason why this is important is because this is the first time I'd actually given a persona or an image to my music. Previously, when I did music, I would never include anything to do with me. I would never include a picture of me. But when I did Who You'll Become, I thought to myself, you know what, this is actually quite a relevant track on this channel. It was so important, I thought I would try and upgrade the artwork a little bit. So I decided to add an image of myself, but not just a normal image of myself, because I thought that would be kind of boring. You know, people, like if I just included a normal image of myself, it would just be like, oh, here's this guy that makes music. It's kind of not really that interesting. If I added a bit of something interesting to the image, like an accessory or something that people could get behind, that would create a much more interesting persona that would people would be able to link to the image. They would say, oh, what does Tyler Brooker look like? And they would their minds would be drawn to the image that I use in Who You'll Become. And that's where it sort of started off. That was the image that I used for my profile picture on the channel after I made Who You'll Become, because this is what I wanted to associate with my music. This was me. This is the first time that I created an actual avatar or something that people could put a face to the name, pretty much, for the channel, right? It's kind of similar if you're thinking about artists like Marshmello or Deadmau5. You know, they're very important artists, obviously. If you were to have a normal conversation with them, then you know, they wouldn't be wearing their masks. You'd just be able to just talk to them as they are. But when it comes to their music, when you think of them in their tracks, and you just think of them when they're performing, they wear their helmets, right? They're not masks, they're helmets, right? And that's because that's their persona. That's the thing about them that gives them their artistic value and helps link them to their music. It's a very important part of kind of being an artist, having something about you which is really interesting, that isn't just your music, something about your image which is really, really interesting, right? And this would actually happen later on when I would do Scrap Freak. That would become the next persona, and it is the current channel's persona as well. But yeah, no, that was kind of important because I also decided to use the cover art for the glasses, right? I decided to use the image of me with the glasses in a new piece of cover art called not a new piece of cover art, but another track that I did later on called New Generation, where you can see half of my face is basically just me normally, and then the other half is the persona that people see, and it's sort of like almost like a split personality. I think that's kind of what I was going with that. And then also another very subtle Easter egg is if you notice the cover art of Level 1, which is another track that I did previously, which wasn't particularly great, I've also used the glasses there, right? You can see the glasses are actually in the bottom left corner of the screen, and that's kind of weird. Like, I'm thinking to myself, why did I put the glasses in that image? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the answer to that is I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why I put the glasses in there. I just wanted something to kind of reference the previous tracks. People could look at that and say, oh, I recognize those glasses, those are the ones that he used for Who You Become, or something like that. But it wasn't really that obvious, so I don't think it really worked that well for that particular cover art. But I always enjoy doing stuff like that when it comes to not just dressing up for the image, right? Not just dressing up for the cover art to improve the image, to make it a lot more artistic, right? But also to reuse previous images to kind of make references to them, because it's one of those things that I like doing, because it's a lot more enjoyable to do, and it kind of makes the audience think a bit more as to why I might have done it. If you've ever listened to the track that I released in December 2017 called Saviour, you'll notice that there's a voice in the middle during the breakdown talking about how EDM has fallen. but somebody basically needs to kind of rise up and make it really interesting again. And that voice is mine, of course. That voice is quite noticeably mine, just with a little bit of pitch shifting downwards to make it a bit more sinister and less like a teenage boy, basically.
In time, EDM would fall to the ground into nothing. But one day, a man rose from the ashes, a savior.
Rush B was another weird and interesting gemstone on the channel. The reason why it exists is actually kind of funny. It was actually a sort of meme among friends in sixth form, the ones that knew about the release of Rush anyway. So if you've not heard of Rush, or if you don't know what Rush is a very, very important part of the channel. It's a very big milestone, right? The reason why is because Rush was the first track that I released to major stores like Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Google Play, stuff like that. Actual major commercial stores, rather than just kind of free platforms like YouTube and SoundCloud, right? This was a big moment for me because I felt I finally had the confidence to release music to bigger platforms and actually start earning money. Of course, I didn't really earn a lot of money at the beginning, but this was a very, very big stage for me. And after that happened, kind of a lot of my friends started to pick up on it. It was very important for me. And I was really glad that they were enjoying it. But then this sort of meme came about in the group, in this group of people that I was with, saying things like, "Oh, Tyler, when's Rush B going to come out? When are you going to make a new version of Rush?" They kept calling it Rush B. I don't know why. I think it was just a sort of meme. I don't know. I get that it was a sort of joke among friends, and they kept kind of pestering me, saying things like, "Tyler, when are you going to release Rush B? When is Rush B going to come out?" And I didn't really get where the B came from. I'm pretty sure some people called it Rush 2. Right, but Rush B was more interesting. I think it might have been a meme from YouTube or something like that. I know there's quite a famous piano track called Rush B, but I'm not sure what it references. I'm not sure what it's to do with. You're obviously welcome to inform me. But basically, oh shit, sorry, I just knocked over my water bottle. But basically, I can't remember where the joke started exactly, but what I decided to do was I decided to do it. I decided to release Rush B, just kind of as a joke. Nobody expected me to do it. Nobody thought I was actually going to release Rush B, but I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to surprise them. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to release Rush B just for fun. And it wasn't going to be a serious track, okay? It wasn't going to be a big project. All I did was I took the original Rush, I tricked the audience at the beginning because the intro is the same. It's in the same key. The original Rush is in F, but Rush B transitions to, I can't remember what key it is. I think it's B flat. Basically, I think I pitch shifted. I didn't pitch shift it. I changed the key from F to 5 notes higher. Hang on, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. It's either B or B flat. I can't remember. I'm gonna just take a look at that later on. But I'll edit into the video, okay? But yeah, the reason why I bring up Rush B is not just because it's a big milestone on the channel, along with Rush, and also the 4 other iterations of Rush as well. Some of them are coming up later, don't worry. There's, obviously, if you've listened to Rush B, there are some vocals in the middle of Rush B during one of the breakdowns where I basically say, "I told you to face your fear, and I told you that I never want to go home." That's actually a reference to 2 previous tracks on the channel, Face Your Fear and Don't Make Me Go Home, which were also 2 pretty big gemstones and milestones on the channel.
I told you to face your fear. I told you that I never wanna go home, but I wanna hear you face your fear. Don't make me go home.
The track To Run Away also makes a reference to the lyrics from Face Your Fear.
Where do I go to face my fear? Never again will I try to hide. As long as you stay by my side. And never again will I try to hide. As long as I can do what
cover art for the track I'll Never includes a bunch of random things on my desk, including a cup, a pair of AKG headphones, but most importantly to the image, my phone, which is showing an image of my face from Who You'll Become in red. Now, the reason why that is because the track focuses on how even if you have a lot of talent and work really hard on your music, the way I try to, it's still extremely difficult to be noticed by a major audience because of the nature of the internet, because of how massive it is, right? Which can obviously be very, very frustrating, hence the colour red. That's what the red represents. It's the anger and the frustration of not being able to get your music out there. Moving on to the university era of music now, so there's some sound clips from a track that I did called AZAZEL, which are taken directly from a game called The Binding of Isaac to match the sort of spooky theme. Isaac! The second half of the track, Rush Unified, uses the melody and chords from an older track called Crystal Waters, which was another big gemstone on the channel, released in October of 2017, I think, being the first track made using Logic Pro. So that was made while I was in sixth form, and I had access to a studio in the music area, and they had Logic Pro 10, with a bunch of different bits and pieces. They had a massive mixing desk, they had a MIDI keyboard, they had two massive Alesis speakers which were incredibly bassy, very, very fun to mix your stuff with. Fun fact, those speakers actually shook the glass. If you played a certain note using sub bass, you could actually cause the glass to shake from the resonance of the bass. It was really satisfying, but also quite scary because it was it just kind of felt like you were going to shatter the glass and you were going to cost the school quite a lot of money. You'll notice that in the cover art of Rush Unified, the letters Uni are in blue, and that's just a reference to the colour scheme of Crystal Waters, which was also blue. And the letters Uni were chosen specifically just because that version of Rush was made whilst I was at university. That's literally it. Uni, university. That's all there is to it. The second verse of Rise Again makes a reference to the build lyrics in balance. I'm not afraid when I hear the sound. I pull myself up from the ground. I'm not afraid when I hear the sound. I feel the bands when I'm on the ground. And lastly, Nucleophilic, which was my 100th track starting from Electrophilic, is essentially a remake of the original Electrophilic. Hence why the name is very similar, but there's also an organ sound that I used in the remake, which was also used in the original Electrophilic. It's a very subtle sound, but it's one of those things where I thought I'd reuse it from the original just kind of to reference the original as much as I could. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs in my tracks, a lot of stuff that I like to reuse in my older work. But as I said before, I just do it because I really enjoy doing it. So I don't know how much that's going to change in the future. Like all the stuff that I've done during second year, starting from the Senorita remix all the way up to the most recent track, which is Brainiac, which is coming very soon. But I'm going to consider that a third year track. So actually, I think that the track before that would be Wild Night. That's going to be the most recent track, technically. I didn't really reference a lot of older stuff, to be honest. The closest thing that I could say I did to an old reference would be the Old and Gold mega mix, which is why I just kind of took a bunch of old tracks and stuck them together into a mega mix, just to kind of remind people that this was some older work that I did that was kind of big at the time. But that's not referencing older material that much. That is kind of more of a kick in the teeth saying this was my old material. So I didn't really reference a lot of older stuff because a lot of my tracks that I made during second year don't actually have a lot of lyrics in them. So, there's obviously a few exceptions here and there, but no, I don't. Even in the track that I did with Black Winter called Forever, I don't think I referenced anything previously. So yeah, I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this podcast. This was a bit of a ramble, and this was kind of a bit of a rushed episode. Haha. Honestly, whenever I hear the word rush, I get slightly triggered because I'm always thinking about my track. I can't escape that. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so that was kind of a weird topic, and that's kind of what I'm going to be doing with Mind the Music. I'm just going to be coming up with like completely random topics that have no relevance to a lot of stuff other than producing music, and just kind of little weird things here and there that you wouldn't expect, right? Because that's essentially the variation from the podcast. You might think I could talk about a lot of things to do with the podcast. I could stretch things like to a really far length, like breakdowns, drops, how to mix, how to master, how to make stereo images, how to do stuff like that. You could make a lot of podcast episodes out of that. However, eventually, after all of that stuff, you would probably just run dry and you'd have nothing left to talk about. So I thought I'd try and talk about stuff that was a bit unnatural and a bit different. Like, for example, talking about Easter eggs in my track. That's a topic that people don't really tend to talk about very much, in my opinion. So I thought, you know what? Yeah, let's go over that very briefly. So I thought you guys would enjoy that. Just kind of looking at little hidden bits and pieces here and there that you might not have noticed before. And that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. So the next video that's going to come out on my channel is hopefully going to be the Wild Night lyric video, which includes a lot of dancing and a lot of cool things. I'm then going to try and do a very brief behind the scenes video with Wild Night. And then after that, I'm going to do another VST video, but instead of effects plugins, I'm actually going to do synth plugins, like for example, let me think, Kyra Tune, Tau Noisemaker, Tau Bass Maker, stuff like that. Which is going to give people a bit of an insight as to what VST synths they can use for free that are really good quality. So that's coming soon. And then once that's done, the next track is coming, and oh boy, you guys are going to love this, right? Because the next track that's coming is essentially the start of the new age of music, because we have a bunch of new sounds, we have a load of new stuff in the software, and I'm seriously looking forward to this next track, and I'm sure you guys are really, really going to enjoy it. I've already given away the name. It's going to be called Brainiac, right? It's a very big, tense, sort of hard and gritty EDM track, and it's going to be really, really good. I'm really hoping you guys enjoy it, but I'm going to end the podcast there. So until next time, thanks guys for tuning in, and I will see you soon. Bye.